Imagine standing before one of Leonardo da Vinci's paintings. At first glance, you see beauty, harmony, and breathtaking realism. But if you look closer, really closer, you start to notice details that don't seem accidental. A hand gesture, an oddly placed shadow, a background that feels like a coded message. This is where the magic of Da Vinci begins. Leonardo was not just a painter, he was an engineer, an inventor, a philosopher, and above all, a seeker of hidden truths. In his art, he left behind secrets, puzzles that still challenge us to this day. When you begin to unravel them, you realize that Da Vinci was communicating not only with his contemporaries, but with us, across centuries, leaving invitations for those willing to see beyond the obvious. Leonardo lived in the heart of the Renaissance, a time when knowledge was being rediscovered, when human curiosity seemed limitless, when art and science were no longer enemies, but partners in exploring the world. He was a man who refused boundaries. To him, painting was not just about creating beauty, it was a way of testing ideas, of embedding philosophies into colors and forms. He once wrote that painting is a mental thing, not merely a mechanical one, and this belief is precisely why his works feel so alive, so layered, as if beneath every brushstroke lies another dimension waiting to be uncovered. One of the most fascinating examples comes from the Virgin of the Rocks. At first glance, it is a serene religious painting. Mary, the infant Jesus, and an angel gathered in a rocky grotto. Yet the atmosphere is far from serene. The jagged cliffs, the cavernous shadows, the eerie glow of light filtering through cracks, all of these create a mood that borders on mystical. Some scholars believe the rocks symbolize the womb of the earth, tying the divine birth of Christ to the mysteries of creation itself. The placement of the figures in a pyramidal arrangement suggests order and balance, but the unsettling natural background whispers that divine order is not found in golden heavens, but in the raw and chaotic textures of the world around us. Leonardo seemed to suggest that the sacred is hidden within the natural, waiting to be revealed. Again and again, his paintings reveal layers of meaning. In portraits, a flower pinned to clothing could symbolize purity, mortality, or hidden desire. A winding river in the distance might hint at the journey of the soul. Even the way he composed his paintings, often arranging figures into triangles, was more than aesthetic choice. The triangle was a symbol of harmony, stability, and the divine order, a shape that connects earth and heaven. To study Leonardo is to realize that in his world, nothing is random. Every fold of fabric, every shadow on a cheek, every finger pointing skyward carries significance. Take The Last Supper, perhaps his most ambitious mural, painted on the wall of a Milanese monastery. It depicts the dramatic moment when Christ reveals that one of his disciples will betray him. On the surface, it is a narrative scene filled with emotion and movement. But if you look more carefully, patterns emerge. The hands of the apostles form a rhythmic dance across the table. The placement of bread and wine appears deliberate, almost mathematical. The light streaming from the windows behind Jesus creates a halo effect without the need for an actual halo, merging symbolism with naturalism. For centuries, people have speculated about hidden codes in this work. Some believe the figure seated beside Christ is not John, but Mary Magdalene, hinting at an alternative story about the foundations of Christianity. Whether or not this is true, there is no denying that Leonardo infused the scene with secrets. His love of geometry and symmetry is evident in the way the architecture frames the group, dividing the disciples into 4 groups of 3, a subtle nod to balance, unity, and perhaps deeper symbolic numbers rooted in theology and philosophy. And then there is the Mona Lisa, the most famous smile in the world. People flock to the Louvre every day, jostling for a glimpse. hoping to fill the enigma that has puzzled scholars for centuries. What makes the Mona Lisa so haunting is not simply the smile that shifts as you move across the room, but the sense that she is hiding something. Look behind her and you see winding rivers, twisting paths, strange geological formations that seem more dreamlike than realistic. Some suggest that Leonardo encoded maps into this landscape as secret geography known only to him. Others believe her expression represents the perfect harmony of opposites: joy and sadness, serenity and mystery, a reflection of his fascination with the balance of the cosmos. Even her folded hands seem to guard a secret, as if she holds knowledge that words cannot express. The painting becomes more than a portrait. It becomes a mirror reflecting our endless search for meaning. Leonardo's obsession with mirrors is another layer of his symbolism. He often wrote his notes backwards in mirror script, as if only those willing to put in the effort could unlock his thoughts. Some argue he did this to protect his discoveries from rivals. Others that it was simply easier for a left-hander to write this way. But symbolically, the mirror represented reflection, not only of the external world, but of the soul. When we look at his art, we are not simply seeing Leonardo's vision. We are seeing ourselves refracted through the symbols he left behind. The mirror invites us to recognize that the mysteries in his work are as much about us as they are about him. His notebooks are filled with sketches, machines, anatomical drawings, geometrical patterns. They were not only scientific experiments, but acts of symbolism. The Vitruvian Man, with its perfectly proportioned figure inscribed within a circle and square, is perhaps the clearest example. At one level, it demonstrates human anatomy. At another, it declares that the human body itself is the blueprint of the universe, that by understanding ourselves, we can understand everything. This is not merely science, it is philosophy expressed through lines and ratios. It is art as a map to the cosmos. Other paintings carry their own hidden mysteries. In the Annunciation, for example, where the angel Gabriel greets Mary, the perspective is subtly distorted. The marble table seems too large, the proportions of the architecture unusual. Some scholars suggest that this deliberate distortion symbolizes the intrusion of the divine into the ordinary world, a reminder that miracles break natural laws. In the portrait of Ginevra de' Benci, one of his earliest works, the background features a juniper bush. In Italian, juniper is gin pro, a pun on her name, but the plant is also a symbol of chastity, hinting that Leonardo embedded layers of wordplay and moral commentary even in his youthful works. Saint John the Baptist, one of Leonardo's later paintings, shows the saint emerging from darkness with a mysterious smile reminiscent of the Mona Lisa's. His finger points upward, an unmistakable gesture toward higher truths. The darkness surrounding him is almost total, broken only by his figure, suggesting that light and revelation are to be found in the divine. The sensuality of his expression, however, has puzzled many, blurring the line between sacred and human desire. This deliberate ambiguity may itself be the message that truth is not clear-cut but hidden in paradox. Even his unfinished works seem to carry meaning. The Adoration of the Magi, which Leonardo left incomplete, shows a chaotic scene of horses, ruins, and crumbling architecture around the holy figures. The unfinished state adds to its mystery, as if Leonardo was hinting at the collapse of the old world and the birth of the new. The ruins could symbolize the fall of paganism, while the Christ child represents renewal. By never finishing it, Leonardo left us with a puzzle, forcing us to question what he intended and reminding us that not all mysteries are meant to be solved. What does all this mean for us today? It means that Da Vinci's art is still alive, still speaking, still challenging us. Every time we ask questions about his work, Every time we notice a detail that others miss, we participate in the dialogue he began 5 centuries ago. The hidden symbols are not tricks, not riddles designed to frustrate us, but invitations. Invitations to think deeper, to look harder, to consider that art and science, faith and reason, mystery and clarity are not opposites, but parts of a greater whole. That is why crowds still gather around the Mona Lisa. Why the Last Supper continues to inspire theories and debates. Why the Virgin of the Rocks feels so haunting even today. It is because these paintings contain not just pigment on wood or plaster, but the mind of a genius whispering across time. Leonardo da Vinci reminds us that the world is full of secrets, and that the greatest act of seeing is not to accept the surface, but to look beyond it, to search for meaning where others see only paint.